Gentlemen, before you embark on your journey to slay thousands and thousands of wyverns, make sure you're doing yourself a favor by using LD Player, my emulator of choice. LD Player 9 is now available with the smoothest gameplay, the most stable connection, and a ton of tailor-made features just for Epic 7. So while you enjoy this free-to-play friendly wyvern slaying video, please use the links in the pinned comments and the description below. Really helps me out, supports the channel. Big shout out to LD Player and you guys. And without further ado, let's get into it. What's going on, y'all? I got a fun video for y'all today. Today we're going to be covering a lot of free-to-play or free-to-play friendly wyvern teams with the introduction of Mui, everybody getting cigarette for free. I kind of wanted to see how the more free-to-play friendly teams stack up against each other. So while most of these teams will not be purely free-to-play, like all 3 stars or pure connection, they're all relatively easy to get, and some of them actually might be 100% free-to-play friendly. Overall, though, nothing super crazy. I actually added a extra run at the end. I'm going to be covering one-shot wyvern as well, talking about what kind of stats you need for it, how much time do you actually save doing it, and finally, is it worth it? In my opinion, the results might surprise you. Stay tuned. I think this is a fun time, and maybe some of y'all can optimize your wyvern teams. All right, so jumping straight into it, this first team is from Biako. Big shout out to Biako. We have an Angelica tank, a Furious as our defense breaker, Cigarette as the main DPS, and the newly introduced Mui. I say newly, but you know, he's been out for a while now. However, he is a godsend for free-to-plays, and I was actually curious how good he was compared to older teams before he was released. I tried him myself, and there's a few things I'll talk about later where I think he's obviously insane. He's made for wyvern, but if you're already using previous units, you may not need him. As the findings I uncovered using him, there's actually a few things he's missing in his kit overall, but still very good. This is a classic comp from Biako here. Very free-to-play friendly, right guys? Actually, I think this one is purely free-to-play, as they're all from either connections or Cigarette is now free from the Hun event. I think Mui, though, you may have to pull randomly, but he's very common, so I think we can consider that free to play. So other than that, there's one thing I want to talk about in this comp, and that is Cigarette versus Alexa. Guys, I've confirmed now that with given equal gear, Alexa is the superior choice. Not only does she just do more damage now that she has her buffs from the specialty change, she costs way less mola, pretty much 0 because she's a SE unit, and she also costs less overall resources being a 3-star. So in my opinion, there's really no reason to use Cigarette unless you already had one built, you're doing a one-shot, or you just really like her and you want to use her in other areas as well. But if you have the opportunity and you don't care too much about the individual unit, I would strongly suggest going Alexa. So as we can see here, guys, one other thing to note is Furious has very long animations as our main defense breaker, so I'm going to explore some other alternatives. He had to cast a skill 3 and a skill 2, which drew out a lot of extra time, even though the wyvern was already pretty much one hit from dead. Alrighty, y'all, moving right along. Next up, we got Duke Josh, and by the way, both Duke Josh and Biako are streamers on Twitch, so check them out if you can. Good friends of mine. He was kind enough to submit this wyvern run with face cam included, so let's check it out. This team is very similar to the last one. Let's see which one is faster. But overall, very, very similar. The main difference is, let's start with Montmorency instead of Angelica. Both are viable alternatives. Angelica will be much easier for newer players as she's just inherently tankier being a 4-star. She has better stats for tanking the wyvern out. But Montmorency might be a better investment, guys, if you like her in the long run, as I think she's a more efficient cleanser when you do certain PV content like Abyss. But either are fine, just pick your poison. After that, guys, the other difference is, of course, the Alexa. Now, this is an unspecialty change Alexa, so I wanted to include it. I mentioned in the last run that I think SC Alexa, after all the buffs, all the runes, is much better than Cigarette. Let's see how the time pans out with an unspecialty change Alexa here. I'm assuming it's going to be very close. I think she might be slightly weaker than Cigarette, but overall the run could end up being a little bit faster. That's because, guys, of gearing. So those of you watching, if you try to replicate these teams at home, depending if you're running this, if you're running a one-shot, it always depends on gear, RNG. Do you hit dual attacks? Do you hit the defense break on time? These are kind of just averages. I asked them to pick, you know, just an average run. Not the fastest, not the slowest. And as you can see here, guys, so we're hitting the 125 mark. One other thing I want to note real quick, I'm pretty sure it's going to happen, is Furious. Yeah, Furious next up. He just spent so much time casting skill 2. Now he's got to cast skill 3, even though the wyvern is one hit from dead. Our time looks like we're going to finish slightly faster, but overall, Furious wastes a lot of time. All right, y'all, this next run is from yours truly. This is my own Wyvern team that I've always used since almost the beginning of the game. It is a little bit less free-to-play friendly than the other two, but the major difference is, besides still having Alexa, I like to run TG over Furious Terranor Guard as he has no animations. He might be a little bit less consistent on the defense break slightly, but his dual attack synergy with General Purgus is so nice, guys. You don't rely on the dual attacks, but they can just speed up runs big time, shore up debuffs, all that good stuff, and he costs less Mola. GP instead of Mui. Mui is great, but GP fits in that tank spot, so I really like him there, as I don't have to run a Soul Weaver like Angelica or Momo, and he provides attack up, making SSB clear that first wave very quickly. Okay, so if you don't have SSB, guys, you can opt for Clarissa in this run, but this might be a slightly less free-to-play friendly, like I mentioned, and a little bit more gear intensive. Not too much though. It's not a one-shot. Doesn't need anything super crazy. So I have the SE Alexa, guys. I love her so much, and as y'all can see here, my time already is going to be much faster than the other two runs. So I'm not trying to say Mui is bad. He's so good for free-to-plays. I think he's a great unit to have early, but there's no reason to jump ship to him like I was about to if you already have a previous team set up. 1 minute and 12 on the clock. Okay, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed thus far. Come join me here for just a second. Remember, we're still going to watch the one shot, and I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on, is one shot for Wyvern worth it? Remember, one shot for Banshee might be worth it. Let's talk about Wyvern here, especially for you free-to-plays watching. Is it worth your time, effort, gear investment? I'll show you all the stats and what you need an example run. I'm going to show my stats here because I bet you I'm going to get asked about it, but I mentioned, right, there's going to be variance on your results. There's going to be variance in gear between mine and the two previous runs that I showed you from Biako and Duke Josh. So this is not meant to be a mathematically super accurate, right, which team is actually better, but I do think it's interesting. There are things I picked up watching all these runs, and that is the fact that Mui over General Purgus is not a straight upgrade. The fact that General Purgus takes the tank spot and has the dual attack imprint means he actually is quite nice in comparison to Mui. I won't say either are better just yet. They kind of fulfill similar roles. I thought Mui was much better given his kit. He was meant to kill Wyvern, but GP taking that tank spot is very, very nice. Now, of course, he is not as accessible. He's not like an ML5, but if you never get lucky in ML4s, you may never get him. So Mui is just takes the cake, being much cheaper on Mola, as well as much more accessible. Here's the Seaside Bologna, guys, and this is where gear gap slightly. You might notice I have a rage set here that I just slapped on. That was purely for convenience. I've run this on, I think, attack set, full crit set, speed set, whatever, and I might be shaving off a few seconds here and there. The major thing is just stacking as many plus 30 jokers, abusing that dual attack imprint and passive from TG and General Purgus, and just stacking as much crit damage as possible while having enough effectiveness to make sure we land debuffs so we keep our runs consistent. Now, the big thing that y'all notice is I kept mentioning Furious's animations, okay? Furious takes so much time, costs Mola. I really think Terranor Guard is the superior choice. Now, he may not be as impressive if you don't run General Purgus, as that dual attack chance really, like exponentially stacks with each other to give you much faster runs, more consistent defense breaks, all that stuff. But just saving animation time, if you're worried about that, I do think TG is much nicer. Just, guys, he's going to land a defense break. I know it's only 75% compared to Furious, but over time, he will land one. It will be consistent. I get, though, why people like Furious. It just feels better having a 100% defense break. Now, here's my Alexa, guys. It's pure free gear. Nothing special. Just like I mentioned, I stack crit damage to make sure we have the Daydream Joker benefit as it scales way better, and then enough effectiveness to land the poisons to ease out the debuffs on turn 1. All right, last but not least, boys, let's take a look at a one-shot from Solidus, my guildmate. Okay, boys, the last run we're looking at is a one-shot from Solidus. He has Singelica, Alexa, Clarissa, and I believe the last one was Karen. Now, you can use a lot of different variations to this this one-shot comp like Rem, but overall, they kind of all fulfill the same thing, and their goal should be to be much faster than the standard run, right? The standard run being the previous 3 you saw, just running a tank, taking it a little bit slower, defense breaking, and not, doing the one shot, as we say. It's not technically a one shot, as it will, we kill the Wyvern in one phase, essentially, one round of attacks, whereas in the other runs, it's a little bit slower. So take note of the time, and we're going to discuss after this, is it really worth it? Because you're going to have to ask yourself a few things. How many leafs do you have? Are you free to play? Are you ready to invest that much just to flex? And do you really need to save that much time? Let's discuss it here in a second. But as we can see here, boys, the timer is going to be ending at sub 1 minute, about 58 seconds. All right, in closing, Solidus was kind enough to give us the Imager album for his gear. And I don't really want to use this in specific, like analyzing the gear I just want y'all to realize, you know, the significant investment you need to go to the next step from running a standard team like you saw in the first 3 to a one-shot, right? And they progressively get, as we saw, you know, more and more intensive as you try to improve and improve. Now, the thing is here, I think all the units, I don't know if Angelica actually needs level 60. I'll have to ask Solidus. Maybe you guys watching, if you have a one-shot setup, I think we can get away with level 50. But regardless, we do need an ML4 here. There might be a more free-to-play friendly alternative, though. Karen, the gear, she has to be level 60. I'm assuming she has quite a bit of Molagora. It does look like she is triple S. We may not need that, but it is, you know, as you can see here, guys, it does require a full build. You can't cut too many corners. Like if you saw in the previous 3 runs, a lot of the units were level 50, some more budget gear, things like that. You do have to start investing big time. She's actually +8, as we can see on the right side here, so not full +15, but you know, that is a little bit of a mole investment. Now the Clarissa, level 60, full portrait, EE, 14 Molagora. This one is probably a little bit harder to run. He's actually even missing 2 crit here, but not a big deal overall. And then last but not least, guys, we have the Alexa, who has to be 60. All the other Alexas you saw in this video, I believe, were level 50, and it does have a rage set. He even has the pen set. I think that might be... I wonder if your gear, depending on your gear quality, maybe you need that extra damage boost. So overall, I'm not trying to nitpick. I'm not trying to say this is really hard to attain by any means either. It's just, it is a significant increase in dedication to having full level 60 units, really nice gear, full molas, where you can cut a lot of corners, especially as a free-to-play player, and instead divert those resources into other aspects of the game. So in closing, is one shot worth it for Wyvern? In my opinion, no. It's worth it for Banshee, as the alternative to one-shotting is just so much slower than running a normal Wyvern. But I really think, guys, unless you are wailing out and have hundreds and hundreds of leafs that you need to burn ASAP, then I don't think a one-shot is worth it. I haven't built one since the start of the game. I still don't need one. I'm happy with, what was it? My 1 minute 10, 1 minute 11 runs. I'll stay there forever. I don't want to waste more mola on other units. I really think it's more of a flex, or for whales that have to just dump so much energy, okay? So in my opinion, avoid one-shots unless you want to just do it for fun after you establish all the other stuff in the game that you need to get done, okay? Use your resources wisely. All right, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. TG over Furious, in my opinion, and Alexa over Cigarette. That's the main things to take away. Don't build one-shots unless you really just want to flex on your friends. All right, guys. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out, everybody.